Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trader Interview Series here on the Because Bitcoin YouTube. This series gives us an opportunity to sit down with some really great traders and ask them the questions we all want the answers to. What made them profitable? How long did it take? What challenged them and how did they overcome those challenges? Today's interview is with Tommy, aka SnorlaxXBT. Tommy is the host of Market Check, a daily live show we host on Twitter Spaces, and it can be found here on the YouTube as well. Tommy is an analyst and trader at Because Bitcoin, and he gives some really great insights on his career as a trader, how he got started as a power tool salesman, joined crypto, and never once thought about quitting. So stick around. This is a really great interview with Tommy done by our writer Valentine. It's about 40 minutes long. If you're new to the YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe to Because Bitcoin. And with that being said, let's get started.
And for the beginning, tell me who you are and what you're doing at Because Bitcoin.
Sure. So I am Tommy, aka SnorlaxXBT. I work as the host of Market Check with Max and Premise. I have a really great time doing that. And then I will, of course, also be a part of the capital management wing that the business is rolling out over the next few months.
All right, awesome. How did you get into trading and crypto?
I originally worked a job as I was a salesman of power tools, actually. So very, very different from what I'm doing now. Absolutely hated my job. I hated it so bad, but I always had like this dream. I don't really know exactly how I would characterize it, but I wanted to, I wanted something more for myself. I wanted to make it. I didn't know that was exactly the term that I would phrase it as until, I got deeper into crypto, trying to make it. But I wanted to be, I guess I didn't know what I fully wanted coming out of college. And so that's why I was working in sales. But the sales job gave me a ton of time, a ton of autonomy, honestly. And, the other good thing about the sales job is that I had a company car. So I sold my car, and that was the money I basically started to put in the markets. And my introduction, I probably spent like 2 or 3 months in markets, just kind of equity markets and investing. I had no idea what I was doing though. That was probably Q4 of 2020. And then very, very late in 2020, I found crypto. Probably the last or second to last week of December, I started investing in Ethereum. And I want to say that I was right when it pumped like 100% in a week, something absurd like that. And, if you're me and you are used to not getting this great salary working a sales job, you don't really have a lot, but your money just did like 100% in a very short period of time, you start thinking about things, honestly. And so from that, I started to immerse myself more and more into crypto. And so that spring in 2021, I just got so deep into crypto. I was an investor though at that point. And so because of that, when May 2021 rolled around, I got smashed by that, absolutely smashed. And so but I'd still seen the type of money that you could make in crypto, right? Because I had been an investor and I participated in the bull run, and I did more multiples on top of the 100% that I had originally done in that Ethereum. So just I saw the type of money an opportunity that was available in crypto. And so I had to stick around. I taught myself how to trade that summer. It was a ton of chop. If you remember trading it, anybody who did trade it, Godspeed. It was an awful time period to trade. And yeah, I got chopped to bits. And it wasn't until around probably, September, or I would even say October, that I started trading more successfully. I started making more money investing as well. And that was really kind of when I would say I started really trading. I started learning in the summer of 2021, but that fall, I got really into trading. And then obviously in December of 2021, I was able to leave my job because of the crypto bull run. And now it's what I'm doing full time. And I can't imagine going back to a 9-to-5 or a traditional job.
Okay, interesting. My next question would be, and you already kind of answered that. How long did it take you to make a living from trading, and what was the key point that made you profitable? So as you said, you're profitable since December of last year. Am I correct? So sorry, since December of 2021, not last year.
I would say I've probably been profitable since October of 2021. So a little bit before December. December was when I left my job because I was able to keep those gains and give myself enough cushion to, where I felt comfortable really going for it. But yeah, I mean, it was I had to take a lot of lumps before I was profitable. And I think the biggest catalyst for me was actually, the September 7th crash. I longed AVAX. I chased it. It was already above $50 and I wanted to long it. And it ended up crashing to like $33. I liquidated a big chunk of my net worth. But that moment was very key for me because, over the summer, I had become a bit of a skeptic in general about the space. In the spring, part of the reason I was able to make so much money was because I was such like an optimist, about the space, about DeFi. And so I was able to really get into these narratives which could turn multiples really quickly. But I became a skeptic in the summer after getting wrecked so bad in May 2021. And I would say that alone is the biggest thing, was that I turned more skeptical in my approach to markets. Like I'm naturally distrustful, and kind of carrying that, or I wouldn't say distrustful, but kind of like show me, essentially. And so I viewed trading through that same lens. And after getting wrecked in September, that was kind of like a red pill for me. You might know how to trade technicals a little bit better now from what you've learned. But at the end of the day, this market is still predatory towards, over optimists. And you have to just continue to be a skeptic at all points. An optimist during bull markets and a skeptic at all times. That might be a little bit oxymoronic, but I really feel that way. If you don't question the things that you're trading more than the average person, then you're more than likely going to end up as exit liquidity. And so, I would just say being a skeptic, and then obviously seeing that play out in early September, like destroying me for a little bit, because right after September, that crash, I ticked off the best trading period, that I've ever had.
Okay, interesting. Once again, you kind of already answered my next question. That would be, did you ever think about quitting trading? Or in other words, what was your toughest experience in your trading career? So from what I understood, it was getting liquidated on AVAX in May of 2021, right? Or was this
I got liquidated on AVAX in September of 2021. But May 2021, I had my entire net worth in, super high beta shit coins and lost like 90%. There was a time, that summer where I was trying to teach myself how to trade and I'd lost all this money. I was losing money trading. The conditions were really difficult and it looked like, Bitcoin sitting on 30K. It looks like the bull run's over. And I was pretty dejected, truthfully, back then. I thought I had blown a huge opportunity. Obviously, I got Q3 and Q4 a chance to make it back that year, but I would say that was the only time I thought about quitting per se. Maybe I needed to find a new medium to try and achieve my goals of wanting to make it and wanting to make it quickly. But I didn't feel like there was anywhere else where I could do it, the way I could do it in crypto. And so I would say no, I didn't really think seriously about quitting. That's just not really the type of person I am. I don't want to sound like cheesy or anything, but I didn't really look at quitting as an option, partially because of how much I hated what I was doing at work. I just wanted something better for myself so badly. It drove me so strongly it still drives me so strongly.
Yeah, understandable. Okay. The next question would be, what is the biggest mistakes traders make, especially beginners, in your opinion?
That is a really good question. The biggest mistake that traders make, I would say you've just kind of inexperience, probably. It's not really the fault of a new trader, but inexperience kills. It causes FOMO. It causes you to take bad setups. It causes a myriad of other issues, but most people's biggest problems directly lie in inexperience. And many of, if you've been trading for multiple years, most of the times your biggest losses are probably going to come from, things you haven't seen before, or things that you couldn't be prepared for. So I would just say newer traders should really respect the market. There's always going to be something that you're not prepared for. There's always going to be a pattern that you don't recognize, a stop hunt that you're not ready for, a freak wick to liquidate you. A lot of it comes down to directly to experience, which isn't necessarily, a mistake that traders can fix. You just kind of have to take your lumps in the market. You have to learn through trials by fire at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with you what you're saying here. What is your advice to people that are just starting out with trading in the cryptocurrency markets, especially younger ones who don't have a lot of capital? Obviously, it is even harder for them to make a living out of it, or some significant amount of money.
Yeah, this is actually a really good question, because I feel like if I could go back and tell myself this when I first started out, it would have saved me a lot of money and a lot of drawdown over the years. It's that when people get into crypto, they're so used to hearing about other people who invested in, Bitcoin, Ethereum, an altcoin that did 100x, or, pulled this crazy multiple, and you start to think, okay, I have $1,000, right? And I want it to be $1 million. What are the odds that, I'm going for this 1,000x? That's why I'm investing in this cryptocurrency. But you have to think about it probabilistically speaking, right? What are the odds that you hit 1,000x on a given trade? It is like 1,000 to 1, I'm assuming. The odds might be even higher than that. Realistically speaking, I'm not sure, but you're so unlikely to hit 1,000x on anything. You need to be realistic with yourself. Having a small bankroll might feel like you have a mountain to climb, but I'm going to introduce you to something called compounding. Compound. I have never once in my life hit one trade where I 3 or 4x my net worth with one single trade. I guess there was one short trade that was a conglomerate of perp trades, but one single trade where I've just made a ton of money and completely changed my life. That just wasn't the case. I'm getting a bit of a ramble going here, but compound, guys, compound. Seriously, you have $1,000 and you hit a 2 or 3x, you take profits, you roll it into something else, you get a 2 or 3x there, you roll that into something else, you get a 4 or 5x there, and just like that, you're sitting at probably 50 to 100K when you started with 1K. And there's absolutely opportunity in crypto to do that. So it feels like a mountain to climb, but you have to treat it much more deliberately than most people are willing to do. And if you know the market, you can absolutely consistently continue hitting multiples on these plays. But you just can't look at it as one trade to hit 1,000x. I think you need to really understand the concept and value of compounding.
Yeah, and even though, let's say you hit a 50x through leverage trading in a bull market, as a beginner, let's say you turn 1,000 into 200K or something like that in a bull market. Even though that would happen to you, chances are very big that you will lose it all, because you will get too greedy, and obviously you have no experience in managing money, so. It's better to get these low gains also from a mental perspective, I would say.
Greed and FOMO kill. They absolutely kill. Every time you're absolutely right, man. When I hold something and I've already hit a multiple or two on it, and I start swinging for the fences on it, that's partial profit taking is also very powerful in compounding. You can still keep some exposure to the things that you think are going higher, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to reiterate, if you have 10,000 and you've turned it into 20 or 30, you take profit on that and you just keep doing that, you can build up a bankroll very, very quickly, and much faster. You can do that much faster in spot than you can trading perps. Most people don't want to hear that though, because, you know, crypto does to an extent very much glorify the use of leverage. And, you know, obviously greed, as we've seen this year, or last year, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with you. And what a lot of people, especially beginners, don't get is that it's not about leverage, it's about position size. So you can trade pretty non-aggressive with 125x or something like that if you have a really small position size. So it's all about risk and position size, guys.
I harp on risk management all the time. Anybody who's gotten wrecked in this market, a lot of people multiple times will preach risk management, and justifiably so. What he said about position sizing is absolutely true, because it's a game of liquidity, right? If you have $100 and you're trading it on 100x, I want to say that's like a $10,000 position, right? That's very different than, you know, 125x on a $1,000 position, which would be 125K. You're more likely, depending on the market that you're trading, your liquidity is a lot more likely to get hunted at that size. So also be aware of your surroundings. I personally, though, you know, I even if you are a small bankroll, I just cannot advocate for, you know, trading 50, 100, 125x leverage. I know you're using it hypothetically, but some people, I do know people who trade like that, and they are not consistently winners.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now on to the next question. What was your biggest lesson in crypto that is not trading related?
Biggest lesson in trading is that if you're not yourself, like you're kind of trading against yourself at the end of the day. It's entirely a cerebral game, trading and being a trader. If you are not focused on your process and instead focused entirely on your results, you are not going to be a successful trader. Like if you are neglecting yourself and your own health, there's no way that you can be your best as a trader. You just can't. So I am very diligent. I try about this. I have very good health. I try to work out about 5 or 6 times every single week. I eat pretty well. I don't really ever drink alcohol. You know, not things that you have to do or like prerequisites to be success, but just things I kind of do to keep my mental and, you know, to keep myself in check. I also, you know, I go for walks every single day. I walk for probably like half a mile to a full mile every single day. It's just kind of nice for me to kind of decompress, think about the market. This is, like I said, this is a very cerebral game, trading is, and people want to be obsessed with the tickers and the entries and the exits, but you're playing a game against yourself, like I said, at the end of the day. So you have to, you can't just treat it as you versus the market. It's also you versus yourself.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with you. And everyone that's that's listening to this interview right now and wants to start trading, whether it be cryptocurrencies or something else. If you have some problems in your private life, like let's say you're depressed, or you constantly have problem with your kids or your wife or something like that, don't even think about trading. You will start trading and you will financially ruin yourself, and it will only get you more depressed.
Absolutely true, man. Revenge trading is a very, very real thing. I experienced that last spring, actually, but you never want to, like we say a lot of times as traders, we're doing this for money. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I feel like obviously I do this job because it gives me the opportunity to make, a wage that I can't receive from a traditional job. But, I just think in general, sorry, I'm moving around here. I just think in general, crap, I lost my train of thought again. I'm doing that a lot. I think it's because we just did market check.
No problem.
You don't want to be in a position where you feel like you have to make money, or like you have to hit a trade, or like it's not going to go well. I used to be in the case where if a trade didn't go well, I felt like I could just never make it and it was hopeless. And you don't want to be in a position where you're trading like that. You're not going to trade successfully. You just won't.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with you here. Okay, now on to the next question. What was your best and worst trade? You do not have to mention the amount of money.
Like I said earlier, I never hit like one trade that was really just kind of, one singular trade that was life-changing. I hit some conglomerate trades, or like a group of trades, a block of trades that were really, really successful and that I'm really proud of. The first one would be I played the Ohm Fork season, like Snowbank, Time, Wonderland. I played that narrative to perfection. That was probably the best long side trade I hit ever. And then to the short side, my best ever trade was I got super bearish at the top in November, like incredibly bearish. Nobody was on my side. No, nobody was on my side. I was very early to the bear trade. I shorted like 64K. I essentially shorted 64, 65K all the way down to like mid 30s. But it was in a group of, I want to say 8 or 9 different perp trades. And that trade idea, that whole plan, that I literally 2 or 3x my net worth with just shorts. So that's the trade I'm most proud of, but it also bleeds into my worst ever trade, which was the end of that trend. I was still aggressively shorting the move as I had the entire time. You just keep going back to the well if you're successful doing the same thing. And I shorted the breakdown from like 42K down to 33K. And at the time, it was the highest unrealized profit I've ever had. It still is.
Okay.
And I didn't take any profit on it. I averaged down too, because I was expecting us to break below 30K and continue lower. And my average ended up being like 39, 40K. And when we ripped to 42, 2 weeks later, I got blown out. Biggest loss I've ever taken on a perps trade. What should have been my biggest ever win. And truthfully, that trade alone put me on like a 3 or 4 month tilt. That really threw me off. So definitely something to be said about minimizing your losers, or it can throw you off for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, interesting. The next question would be, obviously there are cycles in the market where it is easier to make money than right now, but do you think trading crypto will become harder over time?
Yes, absolutely. You have entities like the Citadel essentially coming into crypto, about to start market making. They've already started market making Bitcoin and Ethereum. The more that we have institutional involvement in crypto, the more efficient the market will get, hypothetically speaking. More efficient market means less opportunity. But in my opinion, if you are truly crypto native, you'll still be able to outperform as long as you're sticking to these narratives and really playing them. I think it'll just look different. You probably won't have just the absolutely absurdity that was spring of 2021, where literally everything just went straight up like 10 or 15x. But there will be opportunity for the savvy and smart. And at the end of the day, the reason I say that is because whenever TradFi, like I just don't feel like TradFi has a very good grasp on the crypto market and what being successful during a bull run entails. Most TradFi firms' idea of success in crypto is just, get a ton of seed rounds from deal flow, promote the crap out of it, and then maybe be late to a narrative and push it as if it's super innovative. Like something like GameFi back in Q3, Q4. They were so late to that, and it was so obviously garbage, but you could still make a ton of money on it, obviously, because it was such a hot narrative. So yeah, that's what I would say. Okay,
interesting. I know you are someone who was pretty, or still is pretty connected in the whole crypto Twitter space. By the way, what's your? You lost your first account. What's your Twitter name for the second account so everyone can follow you?
I did lose. Yeah, that really makes me upset, man. That took me like 2 years to build that account up. I think the biggest thing I'm going to miss is some of the big names that were starting to follow me. I was kind of proud of that. Whether that's kind of corny of me to be happy about that or not. But anyway, my new @ is SnorlaxXBT. It's very similar to SnorlaxXBT, but Twitter sucks, and they're kind of they're going after any account that I make that is labeled similarly. I'm not sure why that's the case, but it is. So I am Snoring LARP XBT. I still have the Snorlax name though on Twitter.
All right, you heard him, man. Follow him. My question would be, how many people do you know that lost all or most of their money due to crypto or trading, and how many of them have actually recovered, if you can say that?
I feel like a lot of my most successful friends got absolutely obliterated at least once. you know, I am obviously I'm somebody who like I had 90% net worth drawdown in May of 2021 and I got back on the horse. A lot of it is perseverance, and you have to take your lumps in this market, I think, to be successful over a longer term. You know, you could be successful and have an edge short term, come right into crypto and play a trend, but to stick around and consistently play this market, you really got to live and breathe it. And I think a lot of the people I know who have lost their entire bankroll or who have lost a significant portion of their bankroll, the biggest thing they did is stick around. They got very well acquainted with the narratives of the market. And then I would also say getting wrecked goes back to what I said earlier in the interview, which is you become a lot more skeptical about the market that you're trading, in the sense that, you know, you're not calling it like the future of finance or like, you know, DeFi. You're not really looking at it as rosy-eyed as before. You're trading what you call like, you know, Ponzi's or internet schemes, you know, stuff like that. You treat them like that, and you're never gonna get destroyed simply because, you're never gonna get destroyed simply because of you're never gonna get destroyed because of like attachment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, you're just trading Ponzi's. The next question is kind of similar to what I've just asked. And the question is, if somebody comes to you and says that trading has destroyed him or her financially, maybe also put them into debt, what is your advice in that situation?
Into debt, man, that's tough. Because I always say the one thing you can't let yourself do is get zeroed out. Like you can take as many lumps as possible in this market. I told Carter this a really, really long time ago, that any day in trading can be your best day. So you just have to hang in there, man. With risk, you have to give yourself enough leeway to continue giving yourself the opportunity to take risk. And if you ever put yourself in a position where, you know, you've risked so much that it all goes away, I think for starters, that's a huge problem on you, and you probably need a mental reset because you're probably revenge trading or compensating for something. You don't want to do that. Yeah, definitely not. Can you repeat the question one more time? I know I had more to say about it.
If somebody comes to you and says that trading has destroyed him or her financially, maybe also put him into debt, what is your advice in that situation?
Yeah, I actually did have somebody who came to me and they did blow their entire bankroll so badly they couldn't even get home from where they were vacationing. And don't be that guy, guys. I love that guy. You know, he's a part of my Discord, but you know, you don't ever want to put yourself in a situation where you've risked too much to lose. But if you are still in the game, you know, that's the second half of this question. If you are still in the game, just keep chugging. Honestly, sometimes it can get so depressing like losing for huge spans of time. But if you stay consistent, stay true to yourself, keep refining your system, keep improving, and you're giving yourself the best chance to be successful. You know, you're putting a lot of time into the market. You will eventually be successful. I'm telling you guys, trading is a lot of time commitment at the end of the day. We act like we have I do have a great life. I have a great career. I have a lot of free time, or autonomy, I should say, but do I really have as much free time as I say? Because I spend so much time glued to the charts and glued to the markets. And that's what you guys don't see. A lot of extra time that goes into it. That's what it takes to really be successful. So if you have blown a lot of money trading and that's not something you're willing to endure, I'd probably look for something else. But if it is, then keep chugging, man. Honestly, just keep at it.
Yeah, absolutely agreeing with you. And the next question is kind of connected to what you just said at the end. I know this is hard to answer, but when do you think a person should realize that trading isn't for them? Is there a certain time period or something else you would say a person needs to go through to know that?
Yeah, I think if you blow your whole bankroll, you should probably stop trading. You at least take a break. You know, I don't really know that I can vouch for somebody giving up trading forever, unless. So a lot of people treat trading as gambling, and it's not. You have to take it seriously, like you would treat a career. If you're purely gambling, I would say stop trading. You're probably on a tilt. But if you blow your whole bankroll, you clearly need a full-blown reset, since you were able to get in that position in the first place. But I wouldn't necessarily advocate for anybody to stop trading. I'm very much a proponent of people having the opportunity to kind of have a say in what they do and, obviously how much they make. So if you are still, trying to get after it, I would say keep getting after it, but you have to recognize where you went wrong seriously, or you're never going to make it.
Absolutely agreeing with you. And what I've observed over the years in the markets is that most people have a really hard time being honest with themselves. Like if a lot of people, if they were really honest with themselves in the crypto markets, they would just admit that they are gamblers. They are not really interested in trading and learning the markets and, learning trading psychology and this and that. They are just here to gamble, and that's why they always lose in the long term.
Absolutely. Most people don't have the discipline to be a successful trader. The discipline, honestly, and honesty, self-reflection, accountability. You have I don't really journal anymore, but I'm very good about reflecting on why I make mistakes anymore. If I miss a trade in anything, I'm immediately looking at things like the microstructure, the market structure. How can I catch a trade like this next time? What did I miss this time? I don't know. I'm just very self-reflective now, and I feel like if you don't hold yourself to that standard, it's going to be really hard to perform in a space where only 5% of people trading are profitable at all.
Yeah, absolutely. The next question would be, how can I be a trader that doesn't lose money?
Risk management, biggest thing. You can take wins, but at the end of the day, what's going to crush you the most are massive losses. And that goes back to kind of that gambler's mentality we were just talking about. People will gamble and gamble, especially if they've hit a few wins in a row. They're going to keep sizing up, and eventually they're going to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, protecting your capital is really, really important. But also, I would say risk management, have a good trading plan, and also what you have to learn is a lot about trading psychology and emotions. I would say 90% about trading is just psychology and emotions. Learn about that, and if you can manage these three things, and build an experience, build a lot of experience over time, you will be successful or profitable.
100%. And the best way I can put that exact thing that you just said, there are a lot of great analysts in this market, but very few great traders.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now on to the next question. What's your outlook for this year? Are you looking to accumulate assets, or will you stay mostly in cash? What's your plan for 2023?
My plan coming into the year was really to, I figured we would probably have some equity turmoil in Q1 or Q2, and that would probably give me a really good mid-year buying opportunity on Bitcoin. I'm a strong believer that we are going to have some sort of echo bubble. I thought it would probably be from 12K to 30K Bitcoin, something ridiculous like that. Maybe a pump into the halving, something like that. I don't know. That was my plan. This pump in crypto has caught me a little off guard, truthfully. I didn't expect us to bottom so quickly. I don't know that this is the bottom. Let me just say that much. This could just as easily be a short squeeze there. And I'm looking to play the volatility within this trend, but I guess like I said, I was caught off guard. I wanted to buy mid-year, more depressed prices. In terms of playing spot, now I'm probably going to look to buy some on a pullback. Depending on what the equity market looks like. I feel like we'll get a pretty good gauge for how strong this trend is when we get some semblance of a pullback, or, whenever we react to overhead supply at 22, 23, 24K, how valid is this bottom really? And if it's not the bottom, I'm going to stick to that same plan, which is essentially to just to short equities the first half of the year, buy during the summer, and I probably won't short it all during the summer, and then I'd look to hedge in Q3 or Q4 a little bit. But that was my plan. I feel like I'm doing some reevaluating currently, and I'll know a lot better here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, really what I want my plan to be in crypto. But I have my eye on some tickers. I built a list up of some stuff that I would like to hold spot of. And yeah, if we get another chance to really buy a nice dip, I'm absolutely going to be, jumping in.
Okay, you already answered my next question, which would have been, what are your Bitcoin and Ethereum bottom targets, or is the bottom already in? So, I mean, obviously you can't say if the bottom is already in. It's also very hard to say, especially now. So from what I understood, you think it is very likely that we could pull back in the summer, and that speaking about Bitcoin, that Bitcoin could pull back to 12K. Did I understand it correctly?
Yeah, for bottom targets on Bitcoin and Ethereum, like I said, I'm kind of forced into a position where I have to reevaluate my stance on that because of these recent moves. I do believe that these yearly candles should, theoretically speaking, put in a lower wick at some point. Maybe we don't, though. If we do, my targets, what I would have said 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have said like probably 11 to 12K Bitcoin and around $700 ETH. Somewhere congruent with ETH Bitcoin being 0.06 valuation. I want to say that the calculations line up pretty closely to that with like 11, 12K and then $700 ETH. That's where I really wanted to, just basically all in price. It's not a surprise though that crypto is front running if that is the case. But obviously, like I said, I am forced to reevaluate after the pump that we just had.
All right, interesting. The next question would be, do you think Bitcoin will ever be flipped and not be the top cryptocurrency anymore? Maybe in the next bull market already?
It might be. It's so hard to predict something like that because every time we start talking about the flippening, you should start selling everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when ETH Bitcoin is at like such a dislocation in terms of valuation from where it's been trading, relative to the mean, I feel like it's very indicative of crypto trading in a risk on environment and being very alt heavy anyway. So maybe I don't know that we'll see a flippening, but I do think there is a big camp of people that prefer Ethereum to Bitcoin for the time being. Maybe it's a little bit more exciting that you can build stuff on it. You can build vehicles of speculation on Ethereum, which invites more people to participate. Obviously, it's a lot like a literal casino, whereas Bitcoin, I feel like is probably trending more towards the direction of a commodity. But I don't know if Ethereum will flip Bitcoin again. I don't know. We'll see it. If we get a real run here, though, I will say if we get a real run, either off the lows here or later this year, I do think it's potentially possible in a massive echo bubble rally. But I tend to lean that Bitcoin will catch an equitable bid at that stage. We'll see. It's such a tough question for me to answer, but I personally would prefer to hold Bitcoin for wealth protection, and then Ethereum kind of for like speculation and kind of when the market's in risk on.
Okay, interesting. One of our chats in the Discord wanted to know, how do you manage risk and how do you play aggressive versus less risky plays in your trading?
I feel like that is the hardest question to answer in trading is risk management. And I feel like a lot of it is entirely down to situational awareness and level of conviction, the second one being the most important. I think the first thing you need to do when you're taking a trade, especially a big one, is define your level of conviction. Because if you don't have high conviction, why are you sized up in a trade at all? Right? That doesn't make any sense. The risk reward is terrible. But obviously when we have these massive convictions that we want to really capitalize on, we want to make sure we have sizing that's appropriate so that we don't feel FOMO based on how confident we were that it was going to play out. So I think that's where the situational awareness side comes into it. If you're in a bear market and you feel really highly convicted in longs, you have to take that into account, something like that. Or, if you're at resistance and you want to get really, really long, you have to take that into account. But, with sizing and managing risk, you can't just enter all at one spot. I feel like my biggest positions ever, people don't really like to hear this, but you're probably going to do, you can call it martingaling. Some people who are a bit more sophisticated will call it scaled limit orders. It's basically the same thing, being very calculated in the way that you add to a position, having a defined region where you are willing to transact and do business, and doing business there while still having, parameters for risk, right? Like an invalidation level. I think that is kind of the ideal way to play swings like that. But at the end of the day, you're probably not going to get a perfect entry on your conviction, but make sure you size in a way that you don't like puke your position before it plays out. I did that multiple times in 2022. I was absolutely right to short, but I took on positions that were too big, and I couldn't manage the volatility at the end of the day. But my most successful positions where I saw my conviction through were originally properly sized, and I slowly built up those positions as my conviction increased and as the invalidation and risk reward became increasingly favorable and asymmetric.
Okay, interesting. Now on to the last question. Give our listeners, especially the trading beginners, tips for the bear market. Even though a lot of people say the bear market is over, but give our trading beginners that are listening to this interview right now tips for this year.
For sure. I still think this is a bear market rally, guys. I'm going to just start and preface that. Really, it kind of goes back to what I just said. Identify asymmetric risk. Get entries that are improbable. You typically, the way this market has behaved lately is, we consolidate for long periods of time. We have a very thin and illiquid move from that consolidation, and then we just start consolidating again. So if you're getting positioned in consolidations, you're already kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage. So I would say put an increasing effort into your entries more than anything. Like, where can I enter? Or you're scaling even, maybe you can take a starter position, have your invalidation, and then add as you get closer to your invalidation, kind of what I was saying if you want to build a swing earlier. But yeah, I really think you should focus on entries, precision, because being wrong in a bear market sucks. Really, really, really manage your sizing on altcoins because the books are so thin in both directions. You can get blown out in a hurry. And then I would say another thing that I wish I had done more of this bear market, that I think is fantastic advice for people trading it the first time, is hit these pair trades, man. You can long these trending narratives and then short weak tokens, or in the past, you could short Bitcoin. You obviously can't really do that as much anymore while it's trending. But when Bitcoin's just kind of consolidating, you can take long positioning on alts while being short something like Bitcoin, ETH, or maybe a ticker with a dead narrative. For a few weeks ago, for me, it was sushi. So yeah, I mean, you can be delta neutral and still play these long narratives, but just don't be afraid to play the long side. Don't be discriminate of the volatility that it can provide just because we have a huge macro overhang. You can still make money trading both ways, even though it's a bear market. You just have to be a little bit more calculated about the way that you do it.
All right, interesting. So we're at the end now of this interview. Is there anything left that you want to say?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on, man. I guess I would just say, in closing, something I say pretty often, which is never be discriminate about, the volatility of the market that you're trading. People who are exclusively trade equities don't really like to trade altcoins, probably because they view them as scams, which, a lot of them are, but there's a lot of volatility and opportunity still in those markets, and people are taking advantage of that. And that's equally so for people who just trade crypto and aren't willing to trade equities. I do agree that, when you have an edge in a market, you should keep grinding that edge, but you should also open yourself up to, other forms of volatility when, your native market starts to dry up. And that's something I did last year. I was almost exclusively crypto. I trade equities now. I dabble a little bit in Forex, not to that point yet, thankfully. But don't discriminate against volatility. At the end of the day, as a trader, your job is literally just to find asymmetric risk reward and trade that volatility. So that's what I would say. But really appreciate you having me on, man. I love that I could share some thoughts for the viewers.
All right, perfect. Thank you for your time, Snorlax.
That was Tommy, aka SnorlaxXBT. Tommy hosts Market Check every day. He is a trader who we've all learned a ton from, and you can learn more about him by tuning into our Twitter Spaces or joining our Discord, where our traders and analysts sometimes hang out and chat. This interview was done by our writer Valentin. He also writes our articles and tweets out a ton of news. He can be found on Twitter. His link will be in the description. I'm Mr. R, the creative genius here at Because Bitcoin. We have a lot of fun making these videos for you, the community, and we always learn something in the process, and we just want to thank you for joining us and thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode of Trader Interviews. Take care. Bye-bye.